Welcome to the Learning Lab, a space where we talk about how to develop educational programs that benefit learners and equip educators. Get ready to rethink, reimagine, and reignite what learning can look like. I'm your host, Kara, and today's episode was filmed on April 14th, 2025. And today we shift from thinking about a Monday to Friday programming and actually go to Sundays, where we can consider church leadership. Now, beyond the pulpit and Sunday sermons, there's another side to church leadership, one that looks a lot like running an organization where there's building teams and casting vision for a community that is always changing. Today, I'm going to tell you about a conversation I got to have with Pastor Jeremy Johnson, the lead pastor of Village Church in Surrey, British Columbia. Now, one critique that has been made of Village Church is that sometimes it operates more like a business than it does a church. And so in our conversation, I was really curious to ask more questions about that and to really understand why Jeremy leads the way he does. I got to ask him 10 questions. Now, the first idea I gleaned from Pastor Jeremy is that church is not excluded from the expertise of the business world. In fact, he would say that churches have a responsibility to operate like the best of the best do, and then to lead well and integrate those practices into our churches. But of course, there's then an added responsibility to also do that with Christian living and the principles found in the Bible. Jeremy leans on resources like Gallup, an organization that provides analytics and management consulting to organizations globally. They have books like First, Break All the Rules on how to manage people well, how to hire, how to fire. This is one of his favorite books that he recommended to me. Now, Jeremy believes that we need to learn the people we lead in order to help them thrive and to not put them below us, modeling a servant leadership approach. He believes that each individual is different and we need to care for their needs and to learn how to care for their needs to serve them well and then see them thrive as employees. He embodies a servant leadership approach. Jeremy would believe in an approach that's also steward leadership. Something's introduced by Rodin, that we have a responsibility to responsibly steward the church we lead, both in resources and in talent. So then it's about who the leaders are actually becoming, that we are becoming joyful and surrendered followers of Jesus and infusing that into our leadership and the way that we lead. When I asked Jeremy what success looks like for our church, he said that success is living out the calling that God has placed on us as a church, which right now looks like transforming people into fully devoted followers of Jesus. In many ways, Jeremy is an instructional leader because he really believes in maximizing our programs and learning experiences at our church so that we can get as high an impact as possible. He wants to figure out what's working and then replicate it. When asked what would make a good follower, Jeremy said this: a good follower is someone who gives trust, has humility, is honest. It's being a person of integrity, open to being led and having a learning posture, being confident, and to be trusted with something and able to do it. I believe that good leaders know how to be good followers, and they embody the humility of Jesus that's found in servant leadership, recognizing that nothing is below them. If I want my staff to follow me, I want to be someone who's worth following, and also someone who is capable of following others. When asked about the weaknesses of our organization, Jeremy said, young staff are not necessarily a weakness, but it can become a weakness if we don't treat them correctly. Because a lot of the young staff who are coming into our church don't have a ton of experience in other things. This might be their first or second job. And so they need a little bit more support to bring them along and catch them up to where we're going. It further demonstrated to me how Jeremy is an instructional leader, because it really applies a lot of the Gallup principles of not just leaving people to figure it out, but coming alongside them and mentoring, training, equipping, and giving intentional opportunities for the staff to grow. When I reflect on my first couple years on staff, they did something pretty cool where they put all the young staff into these cohort groups with different executives from the church. And we just got a chance to ask questions and to learn and to really see what they were thinking and how they were processing things. And I remember one day they actually did a seminar for us on how to manage your personal finances. And I remember as someone in my my early 20s, I had no idea what I was doing. And so to sit for an hour and to ask questions and to learn was so helpful. And I left work that day going they care about me, yes, as a worker, but they also just care about me as a person. And I realized I was leaving work with skills that were going to equip me and make me a better human. And they cared about more than just my work. They cared about me as a person. And so I've realized that that's something really important to me and that I want to keep building into the way I lead staff and the way I manage staff. I want them to leave as better people who love Jesus more and are better leaders who do it from a place of health. When I reflect on my own leadership philosophy, one thing that Jeremy shared is that integrity is the most important leadership trait. I've been reflecting on how you cannot lead people to places you are not willing to go yourself. And if you lack integrity, especially in the Christian sector, it's going to completely undermine everything that you do. I need to keep leaning into mentoring and opportunities to continue developing my own character. Another element I've been reflecting on is that Jeremy's take of church leadership of operating like the best and leading with every ounce of excellence that a business would. Thinking about this starts to change how I view management because it makes me want to continue to learn, not only from the example of Jesus, but also just from really great leaders within the business world. I'm excited for when this school program is done and then to have a little bit more margin in my life to read more books on that from different leaders. Some of the leaders who have been forming Pastor Jeremy around the ideas of leadership have been Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos. I think identifying who you want to learn from and who you want to emulate is a really helpful practice. One of the communicators that I learned from is someone named Megan Fate Marshman. I listen to pretty much every sermon she preaches because I really love the way she communicates, and I want to keep drawing that out and learning from her in it. I think there's a beautiful overlap of management and Christian living and stewarding the people that God entrusts to us as leaders. A good friend of mine, when I was wrestling through this, recently said to me, they said, Kara, we have to realize that caring for people is about more than their output. And as someone who is a high achiever, that kind of grated against me. But when I thought about it more, I think there's a lot of truth because we can be really excellent at what we do. But if people are leaving our organizations hurt and grieving and angry because of the way they've been treating, that is not excellence. Excellence will come when staff feel loved and safe and cared for and seen and trusted. Their best work will flow out of that. That's changed the way I think. All in all, from my conversation with Jeremy, I left challenged that to be a strong organizational leader in the church space, I need to keep growing in my integrity and humility and learning from best practices. And I want to keep applying that to my life today. Well, that's the end of our time today. We'll see you next time.